Why Malik Renau's development has everything to do with who the Hoosiers are going to get in the transfer portal. Coming up.
1 for 3 on the way.
Hello, guys, and thank you once again for joining me on Indiana Sports Connection. I am your residential anchor, Aaron. Thank you so much for being here and being part of this Indiana Hoosiers and Colts community. And all of you residential anchors out there, thank you so much for commenting down below. We have a lot to talk about the Hoosiers today. Malik Renau, he is the linchpin for this team on how they're going to play next year. We're going to talk about all about that and my theory on that and why this is so critical to the Hoosiers moving forward from the style of play that they're playing right now. Or will they go right back and do exactly what they did before? We're going to find out all that here in the next few weeks. But right now, this transfer portal is opened and it is mad crazy. Like I was just getting into researching the transfer portal last night. Here I am trying to figure this stuff out. So it is mad. I'm going to name off a bunch of names today, and some will be familiar, some will not be familiar. We'll have a little bit to say about some of the names, and some of the names we have no idea, because the next thing we're going to talk about is how RENEAU affects all of this, and that is really up to Mike Woodson, whether or not he sees a path way forward in the way that I'm going to tell you, or if we will go the way of last year and do exactly the same thing. But if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button down below. Hit that bell notification so every time I go live, you will get a notification, and hit that thumbs up button so we can grow this Hoosiers community out there. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being part of Indiana Sports Connection. We talk about the games. We talk about the games down below in the comment section. So leave a comment, and I have a giveaway at 750 subscribers. I will be giving away home field apparel. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being part of all of this. I can't thank you enough. Now that we got all that out of the way, let's get into talking about the Indiana Hoosiers. All right. I'm running out of breath there. The transfer portal is open, and I have 20 names on this list here. So many names. I will tell you some that I just want to get right off the list right away. Jalen Blackman, I watched you play at Stetson in one of those games, and I did not know that you were related to James Blackman. James Blackman, the father, went to Kentucky. James Blackman Jr. went to Indiana. I don't like either one of those guys. I don't like James Blackman for a reason unknown. He beat DeKalb High School in the going to the semi-state back in the 80s. So James Blackman, you went to Kentucky. I don't like you. I didn't like your son when he played at Indiana. He had a bad attitude the entire time. So I don't want Jalen Blackman to come. That is a perfectly reasonable one. Other ones of these names that I will name off. So let's just go through them. And then we'll talk about the ones that I want to come to Indiana the most. And then we will talk about Malik Renau and how his development is really something that we have to look at, how he is going to either let this team go one way or the other in this next year. And it all comes down to RENEAU and what RENEAU can do for you. Okay, so let's name off of these names, because here are the top names right now. Bryson Tucker, sources say, and a source I have that's close to the university tells me that he is committed to going to Indiana. So if he comes, good for him. I was doing some research on him. Really like what I've seen out of him. Connor Hickman, he is a Bloomington South graduate. He is another one that is probably coming to Indiana, but he's just in the preliminary stages. The other top name that I want to talk about, Tony Perkins, even though he would be a one-time coming in, and Donovan McCulley helped out Indiana and really talked about why. Didn't talk about it, but he just gave a shout out to Tony Perkins coming back to the Hoosier State, so we like that. And then we go through all these other names. Dayton Albury, Jalen Blackman, already talked about him. Sky Clark, Devo Davis, Jake Davis, Connor Essegian, he is on my list. I think you all know that. Played at Central Noble High School right over here. Played at Wisconsin. Kind of got his spot taken a little bit. Practically did get it taken by. But Max Klesmet took his spot at Wisconsin. So, he did not get a lot of playing time. Would love to see him at Indiana. I looked up his stats. He's only 35% three-point shooter. But we want to put guys on the team that have a 4 in front of that number, 40% and above. But Connor Essegian, he is like one of those guys that has a really good shot. I just don't think he played a lot as a freshman, didn't play a lot as a sophomore. I feel like he's ready to go somewhere else and break out. I would love to see that at Indiana because he is from right over here. I love that he's just a homegrown guy, and I want more homegrown guys on the team. And then we have Malik Mack, Michi Johnson, Dakota LaFew, Sincere Parker, very sincere name, I guess. Terrace Reed Jr., the third, Clark Sajak, could be Sajak, I don't know. Javen Small, Leland Walker, Marquise Warwick, Amari Williams. Amari Williams is a shot blocker they have on there that he could maybe replace Kalel Ware, be in that kind of position. But there are so many of these guys. We're in this preliminary stage where like so many teams will just kind of float out, like tickle in the waters on some of these guys. And we have no clue who's coming or who's not coming. I think it's really going to take a few weeks for this to kind of just kind of shake itself out, like little by little. Malik Renau is a critical player to the development of Indiana next year and how this team, if they are going to turn the corner and play better. Can Malik Renau play in the 5 spot and Mackenzie Mbako play in the 4 spot? And that brings me to the next thing I want to talk about. Mbako coming back and having a team where will Mike Woodson have the balls enough to change the style of play that he's playing currently and put Malik Renau at the 5 spot for this Indiana Hoosiers team? Can Mike Woodson do that? Can he change his style? We've already seen him make major changes. Early in the season, he was doing those hockey lineup changes where, many games we'd start off the game, hey, we're ahead 20-8. Oh, he's going to put the entire bench in the game for the next 5 minutes. Oh, we lost our entire lead. And he then went away from that, even though in some of those press conferences early on, he said, this is just how I play. This is what I've always done. This is how I'm always going to do it. Well, he changed that. Can he change this fundamentally? And let's talk about Malik Renau now for a minute here, since I have your attention, and let's talk about what he can do and what he can't do, because Malik Renau is a great player, and he's probably the player on the Indiana Hoosiers that has the most potential going into next year to being like a breakout star and a leader on this team. One thing we think as fans, and I think this all the time, just myself, when I'm learning new things or when I'm doing new things, we want the progress to be like this, right? We want the progress to be like, you learn something here, this is the part where you were learning it, and then you just immediately go up. But that's not how it works. The progress takes more of this type of a development when you're trying to progress at something. And that's just all there is to it. What we saw last year with Renau, with him trying to be in more of a leadership role on this team and to just be more that guy, we saw him as a sophomore really struggle with that. And not only with the leadership, but can Renau guard big guys under the basket? Now, he worked on his body big time between his freshman and sophomore year. You could see he had a lot more stout to him. I mean, he really got more jacked up. Can he put himself in a position to be more that shot blocker, to be that under the basket guy? Because that opens up an entire world for Indiana if he can play at the 5 spot and Mackenzie Mbako can play at the 4 spot. Because then we can put 3 shooters out there on the perimeter and play a more modern style of basketball. Now, is this what I think is going to happen? I don't think Mike Woodson is going to go with this being his route towards success with Indiana. Although this would be what my main route would be if I was trying to make this team successful for next year. I would say, Renau, you have to play at the 5, and this has got to be, you got to be the under the basket guy, because we know in Mike Woodson's offense that guy is going to get a certain amount of touches and everything. I don't see that happening. I see Mike Woodson bringing in another guy that's going to be like a 7-foot developmental guy, and that will disrupt everything. Illinois went this year with a completely different style of play, and you saw them go to that Dane Danger later on in the year. He had more success when they got into situations where they had to play a bigger guy under the basket. We could have that guy on the team that maybe plays off the bench, maybe plays sometimes with Renau, but isn't like your primary go-to guy like Ware was on the team this year, giving Renau more leadership, more just that he can take the bull by the horns and do what he wants to do around the basket. But he's got to get better at guarding 5s and big guys down low. He's got to get better at going chest to chest with those guys and not allowing them to tear you up down low. And you just got to get better at guarding those guys and not fouling them. I think at a lot of times during this season when Malik Renau had a lot of his worst fouls were when he was far away from the basket, guarding guys that he probably should not have had any business guarding, because he was playing more out of position, playing at the 4 or the 3 spot at different times in this offense. And I just think that was a travesty for him. When he gets far away from the basket, he is not that good of a player to guard a quicker, smaller 4 or a 3 player. And so that just gets out of his wheelhouse. He drapes his arms like Don Draper and he gets all these fouls. Also, Malik Renau has to work on a jump shot. He has no real jump shot. If you notice, when he shoots like his 3 balls, it's almost like a set shot. Like he almost takes it and shoots it like a free throw. He needs the ability to drive and shoot. Drive and shoot. If he can work on that, those skills would help him a lot also going into this next year, because then you're able to stretch the floor with even your big guy down low. If he could learn to drive into the lane. This is just what I'm thinking with what we have. And this is counting that Mbako's going to come back. Although there is like one guy that's coming back that will almost be Connor Hickman, as a player that would almost be like a replacement for losing. I already forgot his name. I don't care. The guy from Montverde Academy that, dipped out on us. Connor Hickman could be a guy that could replace him and be maybe more of like a stretch player where Mbako plays a little bit like that. So there is just a lot to be desired out of this transfer portal. And right now we're just at the preliminary stages where the coaches and everybody is just kind of like testing the waters of these guys. And the next couple weeks, we're going to see more of this shakeout. Did a lot of research for this, but in the end, I think I learned nothing by doing a lot of research about these basketball players, because I will tell you one thing from the transfer portal that just goes on and on and on and on, like with this all the time, is that there will be a guy out there and they say, oh, he's like kind of can go off the dribble. He can kind of do this. He can kind of do that. Like once a guy gets out there on the court and he's playing in the Big Ten, all of those like, well, he can kind of shoot and he can kind of do this and he can kind of do that. That all just goes flying right out the window, because you really have to have those skills adapted to your game, and you have to have confidence in those skills to do that in the Big Ten. If you can, like, I remember Mbako coming in and people said, well, he can kind of take people off the dribble. He can kind of do this. Well, that took a long time to develop. I don't think like Mbako just coming out was not a guy that could really shoot and go off the dribble and drive in the lane and do all these things. It took him some time to develop that as a freshman. And I think other guys in the transfer portal where you hear people saying, well, he can kind of do this, he can kind of do this, that might take a long time to roost, here at Indiana. I want to thank my sponsor, NordVPN.
These days, I think cybersecurity is now as important as physical security. That's why when I'm online, I use NordVPN. NordVPN uses next generation encryption to keep my passwords and data safe, which is especially important when I'm traveling and I'm on public Wi-Fi, which is more vulnerable to hacking. I'm sure a lot of you are going to be traveling for the holidays this summer. Use NordVPN, one account that will protect all your devices and computers. And with their 30-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Indiana Sports Connection. We have a lot to watch with the Indiana Hoosiers. What's going to happen with this transfer portal? Leave your comments down below. I love to hear from you what you think is going to happen with the team. And until next time, stay classy out there, Colts and Hoosier fans.
Loaded up and trucking. Are we gonna do what they say can't be done?